two questions. First question is around a sales closing question. So what I've what I have noticed over the past few months is that there are two types of prospects who says yes. The ones who say yes and are willing to just pay on the phone, get started, and then after they hop off the call, we can just send them the client agreement, access and everything off the call, and that's super smooth. But then the other type of prospects, they would say, "Hey, send me the invoice, send me a client agreement, read through it, blah blah blah." And the latter group, they like 50% of them like actually go from a yes to a maybe not or ghosting and blah blah blah. So I'm just wondering, like from you and your sales business processes, how do you handle the second group of prospects better and actually bring them to a close?
Are you booking a next call when you are on that first call?
Yes, typically, what I do is that I would just tell them, hey, if you're not like if you're not open to paying on a call, then at least let me book you in provisionally for a for an onboarding call. And obviously, between now and onboarding call, please make sure to pay the invoice, sign that client agreement, so that I can come prepare for you. But then, oftentimes, that leads to a rescheduling or
Cool. Yeah.
yeah,
So
yeah,
here's what I would
yeah.
do. It's all good. Okay. When you're on that call, right? You've gone and you've run through objections, right? They're saying like, hey, I get it. Like, I just need you to like, just send me the payment link, send me the contract. I can just like double check it, look it over with my team, and like what we can probably get started. You should just not be booking the onboarding call because that's jumping too fast with those folks. It's basically like you're just assuming that they're all good, they're closed, and they're going to pay. And now if they're booking an onboarding, they're thinking in their heads like, I'm either kind of moving forward with this guy or I'm not, right? Which is like, I would instead, based on what you're seeing, like just book a follow-up call. Like, hey, say it's Monday, right? Hey,
Yeah.
I'm going to send over the stuff right here in the chat. I'm also sending this via email right after the call as well. What time are you free on Thursday? Like, I just want to make sure I'm being available. I know that sometimes like these processes, like emotions can come up or, things can come up as you're looking at stuff. And I just want to make sure that there's like, a call there in place so that we can just make sure you're all taken care of. Does like 1 p.m. PST work for you on Thursday? They're like, yeah, that works. It's like, cool. I just schedule it in the calendar, take a look at things. You may even run them through a bit of the agreement on the call, run them through the pricing, see if there's any questions that come up there, understand like, making sure that they just feel really good and it's kind of curated. And then knowing that the next call, it's on an onboarding call. That's the call where you're going to go over any final questions and get the deal closed. And then you're going to schedule an onboarding call. There's kind of a stage missing there. And that's where you're leaving them unto themselves to either, like they're either, going to that next call having paid or they're bouncing. You want to have a call where maybe they're still undecided and they have some nervousness. There's a call there to then get the deal closed.
Do you think there's something that I could do better to actually confirm their yes? Because my current sales process and the sales process I've been using is that when they say yes, I will move forwards. I'm just going to say something like, great. In this case, let's create client accounts, get the investment sorted, and then afterwards, I'm going to then also book you in the onboarding call and send you the welcome email so that you can leave the call and know exactly what to do. So that's my process. And then sometimes when process are like, oh, you want me to pay on a call, and I have to then reject the whole like positioning and the whole process again for them. Sometimes I feel like is it appropriate for me to simply respect their boundaries and have them go through the 2 call follow-up process as you mentioned, or should I just handle the objection on a call and understand like what's exactly stopping them from paying on a call?
So I think it's kind of both in like a curious energy way, right? Like it's both kind of, okay, send that, hey, send that over to me. Like I'll take a look at the link, I'll take a look at the contract and like, I'll let you know. It's like, okay, well, actually, I'm actually here right now. Like I've got time right now. Like, mind if we just go through it a bit and just make sure you feel all comfortable? It's like, sure, let's do it. Cool. You go through it a bit. Like this just outlines like the basic engagement. Is this going to work like this? Typically what we do here is, we get the payment on this call. I then would like move forward with booking your onboarding 1-to-1. Does that work? Any questions there come up? oh, I just got to this, that. And again, in a curious energy, like just you're not forcing anyone to do anything. You're just being inquisitive because maybe something they're not saying something that they're still stuck on. And you're just trying to understand a little bit more texture to like, why not now?
Mm.
Maybe you get the deal closed on the call, but I'm less concerned there. What I'm more concerned with is that there's something they're not telling you that it would be useful to pull out of them so that you can address that while you're there right now versus you getting that dreadful email 48 hours later going, oh, I thought more about it. And, I'm not really clear on the value. And I just want to let you know, like, I'm going to hold off. And you're like, ah, shit.
Yeah.
Why did I not like dig a little bit more for that on the call? Right.
Mm.
So a question that you could ask is like, just for a second here, like aside from the contract, aside from the pricing, is there anything else holding you up from moving forward? See what they say, right? You're going to then understand, like, is it really just that they need to review that piece or is there something else keeping them on the fence? And that's a good thing to just like field with while you have their time right now. Okay. And then if, of course, like if someone needs time, that's totally fine, right? We're not, again, I don't think it's about like, it's a spirit of like curiosity, but also trying to like step into that tension a bit, which is very uncomfortable, by the way. Even it's uncomfortable for me on calls, like sometimes.
Mhm.
But again, when you have like a curious energy with it, same thing, maybe you've been in like, I don't know, an argument or like a tense situation with like a friend or a partner or something, right? If you approach it like hardcore, like it oftentimes leads to like not good shit. But if you approach it from a level of like curiosity and understanding, you're able to be more inquisitive and genuinely just curious to understand like, hey, is there anything else that's come up? What can I help you with? Like, we're here right now. I just want to make sure you're supported and make sure that you understand everything and feel like, we got your back. Oh yeah, well, I wasn't sure, but I'm just still have this question. It's like, cool, let's talk through it.
Okay.
So that would
Yep.
be my approach there. And then it's assuming it still kind of needs time, which is totally fine. That's probably going to happen, I don't know, 60% of the time. It's then making sure that follow-up call is booked and trying to even book it like 48 hours later, 72 hours later, like keeping it tight so that the sort of narrative, the energy from the call isn't like lost. It's like, hey, it's Monday. Like, let's book a follow-up like this Wednesday or Thursday end of day work for you. So you're kind of like bookending the conversation, right? Where it's not just like dragging on for 2 weeks.
Yeah. No, that's very useful. I probably need to re-listen to the exact wordings that you had in the recording, but I understand direction. So quick second question is right now, like we're like business growing, MRR is kind of like stacking, which is great. And I'm just wondering, just like planning out around 2-3 months ahead, how would you determine whether your next hire should be an account manager slash CSM versus a sales rep?
Yeah, well, I think they're like just two different considerations. I don't think it's like one or the other per se. In a salesperson in your business, assuming you have the lead flow, right, would be like a $0 base salary, 10% commission role is what I would do. So if you feel like, and the caveat there is, let's say your lead flow isn't insane, but like you are closing, I don't know, let's say it was 12 deals a month. And you're like, I need to get out of sales now because I need to focus more on product and delivery and scaling the audience and YouTube, whatever, right? You want to reorient your bandwidth. You just want to moneyball like that math equation to make sure that you can pay someone like what would be equivalent to like a proper salary to bring them on board.
Mhm.
So let's just say you're going to close 12 deals of a $5,000 thing under an example. That's 60K a month under this example. Yeah, if you gave them 10% at 6K, maybe it's not enough. Like people aren't going to get jazzed by that. But maybe for now you can promise like, hey, actually, I'm going to pay you 15% to stand this up with me over the next 6 months. And then we can revisit commission, all that, but I'll give you 15% of sales for now. Let's just say, right? That then gets them to 9K off of like the typical amount of deals you're doing under this example. 12 times 5K, 60K times 15% is $9,000. And then, then you have someone on board and going. So that's kind of how I would look at the sales piece just unto itself in its own container. Okay. Now on the CSM piece, which I again view as its own like equation and its own consideration, not one or the other, but looking at both, is you have a product you're selling, you have people in the delivery journey, going from say onboarding to maybe a few different milestones, to make sure that their like time to value, their happiness and all that is like there. Essentially, like you want to be thinking about as you construct your model, and sometimes this takes a second, it's totally normal. This, like, you're standing this up, you're trying to sort through all like the little nooks and crannies of it. You're trying to figure out like what sort of CSM profile do I need to serve this type of avatar of a customer? And what is the like ratio there? Is it 1 CSM to 20, 1 to 15 of them? Like, what does that look like? And what's the process by which they should serve someone? So I see the process there as you're the CSM, you're going through the thing, you're serving people, which I know you already have been. You've processed out that journey, those different milestones, and now you're bringing someone on to then help relieve you of some of that and start to stand up this delivery team of what you're doing. Typically, like with these kinds of businesses that you're building, Michael, and it's similar for others, it's like, it's normal that like 15% back of napkin of your revenue is going to sales. Could be 10, could be 15, right? Anywhere in that range is normal. And typically around 10 to 15%, again, back of napkin is going to delivery. That's also normal, right? So based on, your business, you may be like bringing on someone, say for 6K, 5K, 7K as like a base salary, and then maybe giving them a percentage when they renew someone, meaning they've done a good job because that person keeps coming back. Okay. So that's how I would look at that, but they're kind of two separate things to look at unto themselves.
Yeah, I think I got a rough idea on what that would look like, process and systems wise. It's just that I'm in this I'm in this balancing period, I guess, where right now, if I don't onboard a CSM, I might only have the capacity to onboard 5 to 7 clients maximum per month because we do a lot of done for you. And on the other hand, if I go ahead and hire a sales rep, I might not be able to like give the sales rep as much of a cap, like as much opportunities, because 5 to 7 clients per month, that might not create an attractive enough OTE. But at the same time, if I uncap that person and say, hey, close as much as possible, I might get like super maxed out when it comes to the fulfillment side. And it's just a balancing act that I'm not exactly sure where to go from there. Yeah.
Yeah. The balancing act that I would do there is I would, number one, look at pricing, right? Always look at pricing. Okay. That's something to always look at, like number one, right? If you increase your price a bit, maybe then that solves then the salesperson being able to make more money off of less deals. It also maybe causes a little bit less deals, but more profit per deal, which then solves like, oh, you have just 5, 6 people coming on board at like a greater profit. And the whole thing kind of like actually corrects itself even just off that. Okay. So just like a consideration, not saying you have to do that, but that's the first place I go. Okay. The second place is then what I said around the closer piece, right? Like make that math make sense. Hence, like the price is part of that math, right? Like, oh, you can go to someone and be like, hey, I just want you closing 6 deals a month, but they make like 2K per deal. So they're making 12K. They're happy as hell. Right. And like for now, like that's all we're closing is just that. And you're going to make your 12K. Right. So like you can still make that work if the pricing's right or the commission's right. Again, that's the equation I'm talking about. And then with the CSM, it's the same. I mean, it's the thing I just went over, right? Which is just like understanding then, like, I think you're going to need a CSM there, right? You're not going to be delivering this thing forever. So it's just like starting to find a great A player to start shadowing you there. And over the first month, shadowing you on all the calls, going through the training, understanding all your systems. I think gradually just trickling them like a couple, 2, 3 founders and kind of slowly scaling up that way. You may even consider, depending on, I don't want to overcomplicate this, but, with something like a CSM, like you could consider bringing on 2, just so that you can have like 2 that you're training at once, standing that up. If one doesn't work out, you still have one. Or you have 2 and you just like delivery is now solved. And maybe your profit margins have gone down for the next 3 months, but it's in the interest of like, oh, over the next like year or 2, like we're standing up like a CS department here and we'll never have like a capacity issue for the next 8 to 12 months. So you're thinking a little longer term versus just like the 2-month profitability.
Got it. Yeah. I think what decision I should make. Awesome, Matt. Thanks for the insights.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Let me know in Slack,
how
it sits. I know there's a lot to percolate on there, but that is literally what I would do.
Yeah, I'll probably have to ruminate on that, but I think the variables are super clear now.
Yeah, cool. So yeah,
Yeah.
play around with it and let me know in Slack like what you end up with, like the math and the thinking there.